Perfect. Okay. We have a quorum now. Call the meeting in order. And do roll call. Everybody wants to do the pledge of allegiance? I saw Sarah saying that like.
I was gonna close the door,
Oh.
but Becky got it.
Oh, roll call?
Roll call, please.
Okay, sorry. Sarah Thompson.
Here.
Janice Baker. Not yet. Mike Baker, no. Tom Trotter,
Here.
Lonnie Rainville.
Here.
Michaela Hammerson. Yes. Doug Mendenhall. Not yet. Okay.
Pledge of allegiance.
Now we can.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. On to item 4.
So, the reason that we're here looking at this today is because, through our conversations with ODOT, they'd requested that we add detailed information regarding the immediate actions and the resulting savings that we're putting into our action plan. So what you have is the information regarding the changes for the Winston route and Sutherland route. They're changed from hourly service to commuter service, and the paratransit and dial-a-ride service area change. So those are the items that you have that are in your packet as 7A for the Winston route, 7B for Sutherland, and then 7C for the changes to the dial-a-ride and paratransit. The additional information is for the next agenda item. But it was all in the same document. So, do you have any questions or comments for me?
So reflecting just the 2 months remaining in this fiscal year, and then was that built into the budget for the next fiscal year?
Yes.
And currently, what's our deficits on May and June each month? So how will this compare the savings versus the deficit?
So, I'm not quite sure I understand the question.
Well, we're running a deficit, right?
Okay, so we have money in the bank.
Yeah.
But that is probably a question that Sherry would be better suited to answer because I have not looked at it.
I
not
thought
like-
I had sent some information to, let me find that information.
Is it something I was copied on?
I mean, so Jennifer had asked me to do a workup of the fourth quarter, like the money that we would have in the bank and how much we projected for each of the months, and then where we would be. So for, that's not the one I'm looking for that. I spent, have to have that up today. How's that information? Right at hand, just looking for it.
I think what he's asking now is we were shown that we were having like a $86,000 deficit for
Yeah.
the month.
I honestly don't think that that was a true statement by RLS. I think that they were looking at the capital expenses, all the vehicles that had come in as a whole, where that was like a one-time deal. So I don't believe that we're running in a deficit 85,000. I don't think that, honestly. Did we need to make some cuts? Absolutely. But I don't think that 85,000
Was
was
accurate.
an accurate number, because I think he was looking at the capital expenses for that from July through December, because we had all those vehicles in there, which was $1.4 million.
Yeah, divided by 12, it was like 86,000, I think.
So that capital would definitely inflate the deficit.
Exactly.
So like in May, this is without, I guess the NEMT is 7D, right?
I'm sorry,
Items. The NEMT stuff would be 7D. You have 7A, 7B, 7C.
oh, it's actually number 5 on the,
I know, I'm talking about the
Oh.
corrective actions. On item 5, I think. Or item 4, the immediate action items, that's what,
oh, yes, so I didn't actually number them
Okay.
because I didn't know what we would end up adopting.
but it would maybe be 7D, right? Just as,
Yes.
yeah. So like on the final page, 7A through 7C, it says May. And that to me, it looks like it's a savings of 36,979, correct?
Yeah, for me.
So if we're way under the RLS's idea of what the deficit would be, that would be like, that would mean that we would not have the issue of potentially running out payroll then for May.
Correct. Yeah, I see that we'll make it through the end of June.
Okay, because that's like I think that's ODOT's and also board's main concern right now.
Yes.
Right.
So that would affect the decision regarding NEMT cuts as well currently, right?
I would highly recommend that we.
Yeah, I'm just
make the cut.
trying to understand it all.
Yeah.
And make it really clear. So anyway, I guess I got my stuff answered there. Regarding that particular item.
Looking at a P&L for April, since we just finished, we are at a net income of 419,000. That's because we got the stiff money. And then I believe that there's about another 550K in reimbursements that we'll be getting for the third quarter. Those reports have been.
That's all
they're-
operational money and no capital included in that.
No capital included in that.
The only capital included is the capital in projects in STIF that would go toward that reserve.
Oh.
The
For Q3.
any STIF funding that we receive, a portion of that is for each one of the projects that we have.
Yes.
So
Mhm.
And that was one of the questions I think Jennifer asked was like, where are we allocating money for the local match, right? That's fine for like for the upcoming budget year, just to,
I didn't see that question.
oh, was that the last, Thursday's meeting?
Okay.
I think Jennifer, she asked it. She was just curious.
Oh, so we have a STIF project that is specific to the greater majority of the match that we have for our projects.
What project numbers,
I would need to pull up the plan.
okay.
Yeah.
I guess for the sake of this agenda item, you need a motion to approve, right?
Yes, for the
I have-
3.
I have
Okay.
one more question, just before we do that. This action that we're taking today, does this impact staffing in any way?
The one that we're looking at right now for Winston-Sutherland and the change to paratransit and demand response. It will affect 2 positions because 2 positions we had intended to transfer to NEMT for the wheelchair program.
So a vote on this right now, is it going to eliminate any positions?
It is the next vote that will determine that.
Sherry, Jennifer popped up with a comment.
That's because I am still working on them.
Oh, there's an item in the chat.
No, Jennifer will check.
Yeah, Jennifer stated that she hasn't got those in her queue yet. That's because I am still working on the report.
Wow.
Mhm.
Come on, let me listen to it again.
Okay. Sorry, I didn't see the chat. It wasn't up there.
So I guess to answer the question, Michaela's question, this one will not result in any staffing adjustments. The next one might, but this one here will not. Okay. So based on that information, I will make a recommend.
Well, wait a minute, because in this 7C, it says reduce the number of paratransit drivers by 2.
But they would be going to NEMT.
But yeah, if we approve the next one, then that would,
And that would have.
That
an
would
impact
affect.
on the-
Yes.
so this indirectly sort of does have a potential staffing issue or correct effect. Understanding.
Can they be reassigned to just the general driving pool?
Well, then that would not take the funding out of the budget. And that's where our challenge is.
If we take those pair drivers and move them to NEMT, then the income that the NEMT program makes as a whole would pay for their salaries
Right, it would have,
instead of it coming from our federal grant money or anything.
right, it would have completely removed them from the pull on the 5311, 5310 and stiff funding. And would have moved it all over to the NEMT income. But what we found is that's not actually the case. And the program has been running at
Yeah.
a deficit.
Yeah, so basically,
That's this program.
yeah, it should be paying for itself, but the money has to come from somewhere, so.
The program as a whole pays for itself, but the profit that is being cut into because part of the volunteer income is paying for our drivers.
In
Yeah.
'Cause
actuality,
that's what
though,
we're losing.
what Sherry discovered for the first 3 quarters, or for the first 3 months of this year, is that the wheelchair program ran at about a $28,000 deficit. In addition to that $28,000 deficit, there were $27,000 worth of rides that were paid that we did not provide, that we are gonna have to reconcile with Bay Cities. So all of the income for the volunteer drivers was not enough to cover the deficit of the wheelchair and the overpayment from Bay Cities. So we absolutely, that is not breaking even, and that is in the numbers the actual numbers. We had provided a projection because I did not have actual numbers, and now that we do,
So if we hadn't have paid for those $27,000 in rides that we didn't provide, would we have broke even?
Well, they basically
They paid
paid us for rides that we really didn't complete.
Huh.
We billed them properly and did not bill them for those rides, but they paid us for them anyways.
Huh.
So
Okay.
that is another issue that we're gonna have to deal with the brokerage.
But for as far as item 4 though, and this sounds like item 5 stuff more, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the 2 drivers that for the paratransit, I know that the plan was possibly move them into here, which we'll talk about that later. But if we don't move them in there, is there someplace else that we can put them? No. They don't have they don't have the ability to drive a bus. They don't have
They
that.
don't have a CDL.
well, there are a couple of them that
Yeah.
with relatively, and there's one that does have a CDL that could go through the process of getting the passenger endorsement.
Mhm.
And yes, a lateral transfer, but not as a benefited employee. It would have to be a variable part-time with no guarantee of hours. Otherwise, we're adding back in what we took out, and so we're
I didn't know if you
yeah,
had any vacancies that you're, because
just
Only the
the,
part-time,
part-time.
variable,
yeah.
no benefited, position.
We have, if people are satisfied, do we have a motion to approve the immediate effects corrective action plans? More discussion.
I don't like having employees. I
I know,
kills my gut.
me too.
I don't, I mean,
What if we did the 7A and 7B? How close would that get us if we just total for those 2 months? It's like about 35,500.
Yeah, so let's see.
And if you subtract 7C, then yeah, it's like 35,000.
How close does that get us?
Was so, the paratransit service area is tied to the hourly fixed route service. So we can't do one without the other. The paratransit service area used to be within 3/4 of an air mile of the Roseburg fixed route. And then when we increased to hourly fixed service for City of Winston and Sutherland, that increased that paratransit service area to include that 28-mile stretch that started in Sutherland and went all the way to Winston. And so what this does is it flip-flops it back to, paratransit is just gonna be within the city of Roseburg. And then the dial ride demand response will be serving those other areas. The difference being paratransit is a guaranteed ride that we have to provide, and the dial ride is not. Paratransit has to run the same service hours as our hourly fixed route. Dial ride does not. So that allows us to make those changes.
So we'd be running an additional service in Winston-Sutherland that is not required. Is that what you're saying?
Well, we revert back to the service that we previously had, the dial ride.
Before we implemented the expansion. Right?
Do we have to? Can we offer more benefit than, and is there, I'm assuming what you're saying is there's a minimum requirement to do. Is there a maximum? Can we run the paratransit in those areas?
Well, yes, but paratransit is our most expensive form of transportation.
To Sarah's point, though, at least for this here, we would be able to not cut those if we can still manage to hit our budget numbers by only cutting 7A and 7B, or maybe 7A, 7B, and still maintaining paratransit and not eliminating 2 jobs.
So,
I guess this is a yes or no question. Can we do it?
no,
We can't. Legally, we can't do it.
we can't do it because transferring those, and I'm sorry, it's not yes or no. The cost that we would have to pass on to Bay Cities, the bid would be $99 per hour in order for us to break even. And at that rate, we would not receive rides. Therefore, we end up in the same position. I've looked at this every which way from Sunday to try to keep from having to make this recommendation. And I just don't see another way.
So I guess get back to my original question. What would it do to the budget if we only did 7A and 7B? This is a budget question at this point.
Well, from the budget that we originally ended up with,
Are we out of the hole
no, we would be back in the hole.
if we only did 7A and 7B?
Mhm.
So we would
Because
at
we-
least,
Because the 7C is shifting some paratransit to the NEMT where the Bay Cities income would pay for them. But if we are not going to have that Bay Cities portion, then those drivers, we would be back in the red. We can't afford to pay.
can
For
we
those
add
drivers.
those 2 employees to the non-wheelchair portion of the NEMT program?
That's the volunteer part, right?
That's the volunteer.
And the demand response, has to be openings, right? And it's full, right?
So I'm not tracking on the whole paratransit thing, I guess. So, 'cause it looks like through the thing, the cost savings is by eliminating two positions, correct? Or is there more to it than that?
There's also the fuel and
Right, but what is this? I mean, the transfer you're talking about, where's that savings reflected in here?
So the 16 hours a day, 14 service days for May, 224 hours at the 99.96 per hour. That was the total cost per hour to provide paratransit service for Q1 and Q2. So we're using actual numbers and reducing those hours. It doesn't take into effect, or yeah, it doesn't take into account the miles related expenses because those are variable. But the other thing that we did is based on this model, one of the items that was approved was to raise the dial ride fare to $5 a ride. And so, excuse me, that's another spot that would, if we don't make the change, then those numbers wouldn't be true. We'd be back to the drawing board.
I mean, some of the stuff could be rectified if we didn't pursue some of the projects.
That's what I was just thinking. Like, this isn't our only option, right? Like, this isn't the only thing that we can do to,
At least for I wouldn't, not for this current budget year, but like the next one, right?
Yeah.
That's one of the things I was wondering, is like if we could see like the cost comparison between hiring outside mechanic versus, you know, if the project's completed, then we have the $100,000 a year maintenance manager and the $41,000 a year, plus then the fringe benefits, the payroll taxes. And then all the utilities and everything. It's like, how's that? I mean, I would love to have that, but just from, I mean, you could do a lot of service cuts if we didn't pursue some projects. I understand that's like, probably the future is like electric in Oregon. But, there could be other options, like. And this site that we currently have, I mean, is there? Could we look at, examine if that possible, like what would be the cost to put the parking lot there? Maybe even like charging stations or whatever, but I know you couldn't use federal money. That grant would go away, but even just to explore that. Obviously, we need to have a budget and we have to do it pretty quickly here, but yeah.
I know. But also going back to, I mean, when Suzanne told us that there was not an option for us to get the infrastructure bank loan, it kind of, in my mind, you know, we're not gonna be able to do that project if we want to keep our employees and keep them happy.
If we're having like the funding crisis now, then if we do add a bunch more facilities and more employees. And like, I mean, the really important thing is to service the public via transportation of them, whatever vehicle they're transported in. I mean, that's not as important, but like, obviously, like having the fuel tank would be really nice, but like, can we do? I mean, is it, I don't know, I just think maybe we didn't pursue those projects. And instead focus on what can we do to get this existing property modified.
Refocus on the basic services before we try and do these additional things that are.
None of those other projects are included in this, other than rebuilding our reserve.
Yeah.
And we have to rebuild our reserve. We have 0 reserve.
Yeah, but
And what is built into there, whether we use that for operations or for capital projects, we have to have a reserve, or here we are for the entire rest of the year doing the exact same thing month to month, trying to figure out, are we gonna make payroll?
my understanding was like this money we've allocated was for the specific projects. And if we didn't pursue those projects, then we could allocate that money for operations reserve, right?
That's a choice, yes.
Right now, like, we don't have any money allocated and going to operations reserve is my understanding for the next year's budget, which is also concerning.
Here's where you're going with the projects.
Yeah,
And I think that affects the 25-26 fiscal budget. But I think we still need to work on the last 2 months of this year.
yeah.
So
That could potentially affect like the paratransit stuff though.
Yeah.
Because if you don't have to cut some of that stuff. But yeah, so you get into the tricky part, where does that affect the 2 months we have left?
Right.
And some of that ties into decisions for next year though, I think.
It does.
Absolutely it does.
We are gonna have to do some of those cuts, those run cuts, for sure.
Well, the decision to continue with just 2 NEMT drivers, which is what the January through March actuals show. That was a $28,000 deficit. If
Per
we
quarter,
can,
right?
pardon?
Quarter.
Yeah. It's, what was it, $9,562 per,
Per month.
yeah. And so when we're looking at our funding is for public transportation, that is a service that can be covered by for-profit providers, which everybody else that does that service is a for-profit provider. And what our focus has always been is the public transit, because that's what we are, the public transportation district. That's what our funding is allocated to, is public transportation. So, we're already making cuts to the public transportation, and that's not where the hole is. The hole is in the medical transportation, and that's where we were directed to look during the site review. They told us, once you get in there and get your actual numbers instead of projection numbers, you're gonna find that you have a hole.
Yeah, I don't like letting people go, but I think that could be necessary in this case. And perhaps if we did some modifications to the budget, not pursuing some things, you know, there could be positions open. So it might be a short window.
Bringing back.
Yeah, if they can get, you know, there's workers, unemployment benefits and stuff, I don't know. Hypothetically, you could qualify for, or get another job. I mean, it's not a good thing to let people go, but we have to make a decision here. You can't have, it sounds like we can't have this thing, the NMT operating at a loss. And then the paratransit people, if you brought them over, then you'd be operating at a $10,000 loss almost. Because you'd probably still have to go to 3. So, I don't know, we can't operate. Yeah. I can't make any motions though.
So looking ahead to the next item, because this one says we're also gonna eliminate 3 to 5 drivers.
That includes all of them.
That includes the 2.
Yes. That includes the 2 that we intended to transfer.
Could run some numbers.
Like if you brought the 2 paratransit over, had just the 2 drivers there, I guess you'd be losing $9,562.96 a month, right?
Times each driver.
Well, that was per driver, for each, on here it says 2 drivers. For one driver is $4,751.
Per driver.
Is there anything, I don't really understand like all the legalities and stuff, but, so like that money has to be covered from the volunteer drivers, right? And so then if it can't be covered by the volunteer drivers, that's when you can't be doing it like legally, right? Because it would come from the transit funds.
Right, it does pay for itself, but we're not making any money off of it really.
So
When part of it's paying.
I don't know if we can double dip on this because you're showing the reduction in the paratransit due to reducing by 2 drivers in the paratransit. We can't reduce them again because they're not transferring over here,
Right.
reducing them twice.
But that's why I gave you the numbers per driver.
Okay.
So that that decision could be made. I mean, to keep one driver to, I just,
So we could potentially keep both drivers and just move them to NEMT. As long as that's being covered from the volunteer, that's okay.
but the numbers she just ran from January, February, March
Yeah.
put us at more of a deficit than what the entire income of the program was.
The
Including
entire
the,
program or just the wheelchair portion?
including the volunteers.
I can look at it if you want me to look in.
Well, I thought we said the program as a whole was making money. It's just the wheelchair portion that's not.
So that's what I have been operating on. Yes, that statement. What Sherry, the information that she pulled from the actual rides performed, the actual rides paid, the actual income, all of that separated out into wheelchair and the volunteers. The volunteer income after their expenses were paid did not equal the deficit of the wheelchair drivers and the overpayment of Bay Cities that we will have to pay back. So,
Yeah, there's an additional expense that you have to,
yeah, there's this reconciliation that's gonna have to happen.
27,000.
That's just for one quarter.
So it's potentially more.
It could potentially go back to the beginning of the year. I've got to pull a bunch of information.
So that,
Are,
go ahead.
sorry. Okay, so this decision that we're making right now to recover this overpayment, is this are we making a permanent decision for a temporary problem? Or once we get through that and that repayment is made, then do we have a potential of not being in a deficit for this program? I mean, I guess my question is, should we be getting rid of 3 positions if we're really just addressing an overpayment that is a one-time thing?
I think that the overpayment includes rides, if I'm correct, from both the volunteers and the wheelchair drivers. And therefore, the income that we are showing is not accurate. So I think that we need to correct the problem and then move forward and then decide whether or not we can reinstate the program at a later date. I don't think we can continue to run it and continue to create more of a deficit. That's my concern.
So do we have enough information right now to make this decision if we haven't? It sounds like we're still gathering information about the actual numbers. We don't have the actual numbers to make
No.
the decision right now?
The actual numbers are gonna be greater than what we have. We already know that the deficit for the wheelchair drivers is an ongoing thing.
So I think for my benefit, to see actually how these play into the overall budget. Right now, you're showing these, but we don't see how it's tying to what the budget will be.
You said,
Or what the actually, it's not budget, it's what the financials will be.
so,
Yeah, the
Correct,
current one,
yeah.
because this is supposed to be immediate
so
savings.
Yeah, so the current budget.
this is Sherry's revised budget. And when you go to,
Is that the one
That's
that
for
did
the-
you? That's for next.
For next year.
We're talking about
This year,
Our current.
the
budget.
actual financials,
okay,
because that's what we're talking about here.
okay. I'm at a loss. We are going in the hole. I've
We
presented
don't have anything
the,
showing that.
Like, how is this?
How
going
is the-
to
how are we going in the
affect our
hole?
current budget and the deficit that we're currently in?
You're showing what the reductions are, but we want to see how that ties to the actual financial statements.
So on page 7, in red at the middle of the page, that is a deficit for the third quarter, January, February, March. That is a real number. It's not projected. It is based on 2 drivers. If we increase the number of
With
drivers,
numbers in red.
the one that says deficit per quarter,
Middle of the page.
that's based on 2 drivers. If you increase the number of drivers, you increase the number of the deficit.
And how many drivers do we currently have?
Right now, we've only had 2. We had one that has been out for 3 months on medical. And right now the other 2 are out on medical and bereavement. And so right now we don't have any of them driving.
So technically the 2 that we're pushing over from, if we were to, any paratransit could fill the spot of those 2 that are out on medical leave right now.
They could, and we could continue to increase the deficit. Well,
I think what Lonnie was trying to ask though is like, and this shows deficit per quarter for the MEMT program, but you're looking for like as a whole for the,
Yeah, but where are we at?
I guess.
Cause if we do these, and this satisfies the overall budget.
Yeah.
That we are no longer running in a deficit, just with this, and we don't have to do this.
That's what we're looking at. So how's that compared to like the overall budget for the current fiscal year?
so I think the piece that you're missing is that all of any reserve that we build up, the reserve that we have in the bank right now, because we were paid our STIF funding and all of that, it is all allocated to public transportation. For us to continue running the medical transportation at a deficit, what that does is that takes public transportation money and mishandles it and puts it into medical transportation. We can't do it. That's kind of how we ended up where we are, is all of the funding was put into a general fund. And as long as we had money in the bank, the conception was that it was all fine.
So this on here is a volunteer plus NEMT is negative 28,000 approximately per quarter.
No, that is just the wheelchairs.
So, I mean, if it's possible, that's kind of what ties back into that. I mean, if it's possible to have the program overall operate at 0 or above, so it's not affecting the public transit, that's a possibility, right?
That is, in my opinion, not possible.
Okay.
I understand that there
I
are
guess-
those that would like to say that could happen. What I'm seeing is that's not possible.
But I wanna see, I would like to see a financial statement that shows this. The actual financial pro forma of what this will look like for the whole transit.
Sherry, can you run one of those? And
So if I ran a P&L from, say, the beginning of this fiscal year
Mhm.
and show what we've received for medical transportation income, and then deduct our NEMT drivers and the volunteer drivers, all those expenses, that leaves us a total of 60,000, but that's not including that to the good, but we've recently realized that they've been paying us for rides that we actually really didn't do. And I don't know, so that was
That 60 grand
24,000.
is just for the NEMT, right? The whole,
That's for everything,
Okay,
for the volunteers.
combined, okay.
Mhm. That's
So, yeah,
the
it could
whole
be-
program as a whole.
And currently we know we owe 28,000 overpayments. So it could be far more, which would, and that's just for 1 quarter. So if that's 3 quarters, then you're talking like 100 something thousand.
Right, so then now you're in the whole 28,000.
And we can't do that though. It's almost like we need to temporarily,
Suspend.
if you don't make the decision to actually get rid of those drivers, we just temporarily suspend the program? I mean, is there much difference there between letting the people off or shutting the program down? I don't know. But yeah, we definitely can't go into the negative. It sounds like that'd be against the rules. right? For the public transport, they can't cross.
I guess here's what I'm at. I still don't have anything as a board member in front of me to show me that. I'm being told that, but I have nothing to show me that. Until I see the physical financial reports,
Yeah,
I don't feel comfortable making a decision. I mean, we said, I could be told anything and say, okay, well, I'm signing off on this. Well, that's what I was
that's
told.
true. Yeah, we need more information, I think.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like a general one.
So
So you guys wanna see the NEMT,
the full picture of it.
Volunteer and NMT and how it
Right.
compares to,
do you want it for just this fiscal year so far,
Well, basically a projection of what it's gonna look
and
like
what it's gonna look like?
throughout. So where we're at today and then where we're at projected out to the end of the year. And then that way we can see what our numbers are gonna look like.
And
Potentially.
projected with the cut and without the cut. would be
Exactly.
preferable.
But then we also need to figure out this, which apparently isn't tied to this. This is different, right?
Mhm.
So we need to do the same thing for this, for whatever part of the budget this impacts. So we know where the,
That part of it, I believe, has already been built into the budget, the current budget that we
The
have.
current budget,
We made the run cuts and made the deductions on,
For
the
the
hours and the-
25-26.
oh, but not.
oh yeah, not for this.
right. But what's it look like at the end of this year?
Right, so,
And a lot of, for the remainder of this year is not even, I mean, the savings aren't gonna be that big, 'cause we're already into May. So we have like very little savings for April and probably very little for May. June will be the only one that we might actually see what we're saving.
so on the first page under 7A, it provides you the information that I got from the reports that were provided by Sherry from QuickBooks that show that our total fixed route cost for July through December was $1,051,591. The split between that, the miles related cost and the hours related cost of that. And then what we do is we divide the miles related cost by the number of miles traveled and the hours related cost by the revenue service hours. And then we multiply that out by the cuts, so that at $1.07 per mile and $80.14 per hour for revenue service, multiplied times the number of hours and miles that we are cutting, that's what gives you the number. And those numbers can be so accurate when they're based on real, actual numbers like this and so close. It's not like we're using last year or the previous year. We're using our current fiscal year, and those numbers can be projected out to within $1,000 of the total at the end. It's the method that every transit agency uses to project what that cost savings is going to be if you eliminate service.
Yeah, and I respect the numbers. I'm not questioning the numbers. I just want to see how this translates into the full transit district budget. So you have cuts here of, the 23,000 for Winston. What does that mean into the transit budget?
The new budget that we're working on,
No,
Oh,
the current fiscal
the current
period.
fiscal budget.
So you have a list that you had sent out that included all of the income that you expected to see and all of the expenses that we are projected to have. And then how close those are. I don't know if you can send that to me and I can pull it up.
tell you which attachment to open up.
So I guess, here's the way that I would run this if I was doing this for the city. I'd run a P and L through
I did.
things
that.
we just finished April.
Oh, this is the other one.
We probably don't have everything wrapped up in April, so it'd be through the end of March.
Mhm.
And then we'd have what we have through April, so we'd have that close number. And then I would estimate out what I project for revenues and expenses for May and June.
I
And
did
then,
that. I
well,
did
that's
exactly
what I
that.
wanna see.
Okay. So see that P and L April through June estimates?
Mhm.
That's exactly what I did, is I,
I think we got an email with that stuff.
We did for our Thursday meeting.
Okay.
Are you sharing your screen though, Sharon?
I was. I was not. Oops. Okay, it's
Just click screen and then you'll have to open your Excel spreadsheet again. You won't be able to see, nope, down. Right there.
okay,
And then open now you're sharing your screen, so open the
the spreadsheet.
spreadsheet.
there you go. So if you go down. So the total wages actual plus the estimate, so I took March's. On wages.
Mhm.
And then I estimated it through April, May and June. So that was the wages portion of it, the actuals and the estimated. And then if you go down to the materials and services. That was I took March and then estimated out for April, May and June.
So the net income projected at the end of this year is a net positive 584. Now, I understand that we have to
That's,
back out.
that's with the reimbursements for fourth quarter. That we will get in.
So 500,000.
Yes.
Then we back out the portions that have to be backed out from operation or from capital. How much does that leave us?
For capital,
I don't think we have
we
any
don't have any
capital in
capital
this.
built into
There's
that
no
for-
capital.
through June, no.
Okay, so that is what you're saying is going to be the bottom line net at the end of this year.
Mhm. With the reimbursements, we'll get back on the federal portion for.
So when do those federal reimbursements usually occur? They'll occur in
August.
August. So
No.
We're doing them monthly right now so that we will have it sooner.
Mhm.
so you're saying by the time August
Yes,
hits, we would have that.
that would be our net income for the whole year, yes.
So I know I'm missing something here, but if we are gonna be net positive 584, why are we doing cuts?
It's all discussions that we've had with ODOT, where I think that, like I said, I think RLS's $85,000 deficit was not correct, because I think they factored in all the capital expenses, and so it wasn't a true number.
And I got scared. Jennifer?
Yes.
I guess maybe you have more information on that coming from ODOT's side.
I mean, you have to remember that's starting out July. And then if you're gonna get the STIF money, which is about 500,000, that we're really operating, we're gonna be using that money to cover that first quarter. I mean, our quarters have been running us $1 million. So any cuts and savings we can make, we can start building. the
And
reserve
I
back up.
understand that. I just don't, like, cause this has come at us and we're doing very quick, rapid fire decisions to cut a bunch of things, so.
So that would be 584.
Mhm.
When does the STIF funding usually come in? That 500,
Sometime in July, generally before the end of July, it would probably come in.
and so that amount of money, the that money plus the 500,000, but basically, let's say $1 million, just.
Right.
That would have to,
That's
that's what you would use to operate for the next quarter.
for July through September, yes.
So what is your operational expenses typically per quarter?
About 400,000 sometimes. I mean, if we continue on the road that we've been, if we don't make some of these cuts where we cut some of the hours and miles,
Mhm.
then we're
Is
gonna
that per
be.
quarter, Sherry, or per month?
No,
400,000
that's
per month.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
The quarter it has been running about a little over $1 million.
So it'd be 200,000 in the hole
Mhm.
if we maintain the current course. Plus, the next budget, we built in a bunch of stuff to repay the, project match. So that'd be higher probably, right?
That's, yeah.
On the proposed budget.
And that's why we've had to do some of the things we've done with the budget, but that's a discussion for another day.
So do we anticipate anything coming as far as revenues in the first quarter? So we get,
Other than the stiff and just the reimbursements from fourth quarter, no. I mean, and our, fare box revenue and the medical transportation money, but and a little bit of miscellaneous advertising money, but that's really gonna be that's gonna carry us for each quarter. But if we don't start making some cuts somewhere, we're gonna start going in the hole.
I guess, getting back to Tom's question on that, if we're starting to look at these things and these, because these decisions that we're making are really looking at what's gonna happen next year. If we look at not doing these projects, where does that, and how does that affect that number?
I'd have to go back to the drawing board.
'Cause I think it's an alternative.
Yeah, I mean, we have the proposed budget on there.
I
Spreadsheet.
would just need to know what you want me to do, and I can go back to the drawing board and then bring something.
What were you talking about, not doing, possibly looking at, not doing the,
If we didn't do the project next door, I mean, there's more time to do the electric bus thing, but that's a big what if, because we'd have to have money to develop this property that
right,
we currently have. But definitely would be that one would be, that's the immediate one,
Mhm.
that we're putting money into the, repaying into the, match funds is my understanding.
That's the 522, right?
Right.
Yeah, sure, okay. I'll make sure.
So that's the current fiscal year, I think. Well, not current-
I hate to- Yeah, I hate to interrupt you guys, but I do have another meeting at 1 o'clock and do I make quorum? If I leave, am I
No,
gonna mess you
Janice
guys
is
up?
on.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay,
Janice.
perfect. I just wanted to make sure if we were taking a vote, I wasn't gonna mess up quorum. Okay,
Yeah, I'm here.
cool.
I think even if we eliminate the 522, I think that the NEMT project really needs to be discussed, and that would be some layoffs regardless of the 522. But it would help us at the end of, with the budget, we would have a larger unappropriated funds balance, which,
we need,
we need.
Yeah.
Yeah, right now it's like $6,000.
I don't think that we're gonna get away from doing no layoffs if we get rid of the NEMT project. There's gonna have to be some.
well, I think we need to start exploring that option.
Okay.
Would Bay Cities be, I mean, is there another program in the area that provides that service? Like, if we get rid of the wheelchair program, is there another program in the county that provides that service for those people?
Big cities.
So why, okay, then why are we contracting with them if they're providing it, I guess is the question.
Because they can contract out less than what they can provide the service for.
So we're,
Mhm.
So the services will be provided to our population out there.
There's another one too, right?
will they take
We
on those
used to
two
go through.
drivers?
That's a good question.
I mean,
I missed.
I said, will they take on those two drivers that we're gonna get, that we're discussing getting rid of?
Oh. Well, Jennifer did mention that there are, agencies that are looking for drivers that don't necessarily need a CDL over in Coos Bay and also up in Eugene. Eugene just had to do service cuts because they didn't have enough drivers. And also, possible down in Josephine County as well. All of them are an hour drive, at least.
Yeah, that's not.
Yeah.
I don't know if it requires CDL, but, one that, Mountain Lodges is near Bend or whatever, they're hiring for the driver positions.
I respect Sarah's position, but I think that for the health of the district, I think we do need to make these changes. But I also think that we need to reevaluate for long-term,
Oh.
the
Okay.
projects.
I could do numbers like with just one of our NEMT drivers and see, I mean, we're still gonna be in a deficit, but will we be as a whole, will the program be in a deficit? I don't know. We've got to really get those numbers dialed in from July through December on what Bay Cities paid us and what they should have paid
Well,
us.
Bay City's providing the service. I don't know why we're also in that space. What's the benefit to us?
We were asked to be in that space when MTM became the brokerage. And when they became the brokerage, then Bay Cities pulled their wheelchair drivers from the program and said they wouldn't provide the service through MTM. Then when the brokerage was awarded back to Bay Cities, then they started having their drivers do
I see.
the service again.
So it kind of comes back, maybe our drivers could just go to Bay Cities, right?
Possibly.
I mean, can there be communication with Bay Cities to see about that?
Absolutely. I have to have a conversation with her anyway.
I don't know, so this decision could be potentially delayed until we got more information.
I think that's a good idea. I think let's wait until we get that information before we pull the trigger on this.
Because I don't want to, a person can have a quicker transition from job to job.
Mhm.
Without,
Do we want to have another meeting later this week?
I can do it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if we potentially push it off to the end of May would be the soonest that we made a decision. Then we could actually handle it in our regular board meeting if you'd prefer. Oh, but in our regular board meeting, we have a budget hearing that then we're gonna have
Yeah.
to, after the hearing, make any changes that you guys
And
decide to.
Yeah, we have open enrollment
So,
that we've got to.
Yeah, if there's also this, I don't know, how much time do you think it'll take you to put together information on the special project stuff?
I could probably have it ready probably by tomorrow.
Okay,
I just have to, well, the Bay Cities part of it is the only part that's gonna be difficult, but I can just start pulling that information,
and then
maybe by the end of.
if you wanna
the
wait
week.
till, is that important, do you think, to get information from Bay Cities if they can get those two drivers?
Well, I think that'll impact the decision on this.
Yeah, so you probably wanna wait until we could hear back from Bay Cities, right?
Mhm.
And that could take
When
longer.
are you planning on talking to them, Sarah?
I can talk to them today.
Okay.
Well, as long as I can get a hold of her, she's difficult to get a hold of.
Mhm.
But if we go back to item 4, the 3 that are,
Yes,
Winston Sutherland and, the change in the paratransit demand response service area. Those are the ones that, ODOT specifically asked us to provide the methodology and what the reduction in cost would be by implementing them. And they actually called me and asked me if we could implement sooner than what we had originally planned, so.
that was May 13th, right?
Yeah. And that was a request from ODOT.
So the Winston Sutherland, I believe we just have to do, but it's the para and the
Yeah,
NEMT.
If we end up voting to move into NAMT, then that would that'd make it,
Well, so you could change that and not add them to NEMT and leave them as dial-a-ride. which gives us more dial-a-ride drivers, which is something that for our population, we do need.
So I can
And then-
work it out that way. I can. instead
And
of-
that allows us to modify their hours to fit within an 8-hour day. And right now, we still have dispatch scheduling 10 and 12-hour days, which is a conversation that will be followed up on this evening.
I'm more comfortable with that, knowing that they'll still be,
Yeah, that's
a good dial ride.
So this, we just need the 7C to be modified, the language in that, so. When can people meet? What time
Well,
frame?
we can make a motion with the modification.
Okay,
Yeah,
all right, I can't make it.
I'll make a motion to approve
It's item 4, right, with my,
item 4 with modifications as discussed.
that's
I'll
to
second.
move from paratransit to Ballard, right?
Dial ride.
Okay, motion by Lonnie, second by Sarah. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
I,
Motion passes with 4. Okay, so then we move on to item 5. I think we've been discussing that, but
We're gonna table that, right?
yeah, I think so. Table that, and then that would be, this is where we can discuss, I guess, the special meeting
Mhm.
and the time frame then what works for people. Cause I have to call it, I mean, I have pretty open availability most of the time during the day.
Daily thinking.
And I can do anytime, I mean, on the noon hour, I can do
Or
anytime.
what day?
How long will it take you to pull the Bay Cities numbers? It took her a full day to
Yeah.
get the 1
To
quarter.
get 1/4, so I think I could have something put together by Friday afternoon.
So what about Tuesday? I have nothing, I can't do anything Monday. I'm slammed. But what about Tuesday?
Fine for me.
Next Tuesday.
How about you, Janice? Could you do this coming Tuesday?
let me, check my calendar. Hold on.
You can always send an email out too. Just call a special meeting.
I'm good at noon hour.
I'm good at noon also.
Yeah, I think I'm good
At noon
at noon,
for
at
Tuesday?
noon. Yeah. Yeah, I have to take my dad to his dentist, but I should be there by then and I can join in on there. I won't be able to show up, but I can be online.
Good.
So Tuesday at noon.
Yeah, also, Tom Trotter, Chair of the UPD Board of Directors, call a special meeting for this coming Tuesday.
Can I ask?
May 7th?
Yes,
Can I just ask for clarification? So you want me to work up a new budget, eliminating the 522,000
Well,
or?
I think right now we're focusing on the
The current year. fiscal
current fiscal,
Okay,
yeah,
oh, okay,
With this information.
yeah, with the Bay City information.
okay,
So that will come,
Before the next meeting,
yeah.
the
okay,
budget meeting.
okay.
okay. Yeah, so yeah, 6 days from now, so that's, you said that's May 7th, I don't have a calendar.
May
Yeah,
7th.
okay, at noon. Okay, and meeting adjourned then at 1:04.
Thank you.
Thanks. Buddy?
Can I just say something really quickly? I had my hand up, but I don't think you saw it before you adjourned.
Oh, okay.
So a couple of things that are concerning that I heard during this meeting that I know that Suzanne is gonna ask me about is number one, that you guys are still having a high amount of overtime. Because that was driving you into the hole farther. Number two, when we talked about some of the cuts and stuff, you guys originally said the 13th. Has that information gone out to the public that those cuts are coming? If
No.
it has not, I mean, you have to give adequate time for service changes. And then, just number 3 is, if you are every day that you guys delay, and I understand you need to take time because we're dealing with people's jobs, and I don't want you to have to rush, but I know Suzanne is pushing me as well. So every day that you guys delay making any decisions, you're going further into the hole. Because you're saying that you're still not making enough, or you're not bringing in enough revenue to cover all of the costs. So, I know from a standpoint of ODOT, we don't have a bucket of money that's available to, bail people out. So we want to make sure that you guys are aware that you need to get these decisions made. And I know you're trying as hard as you can. But again, I know that Suzanne is gonna ask, these are the questions Suzanne's gonna ask me. How, you told us that you guys were already cutting your overtime and it's still going. You told us you were going to stop, the paratransit the first, and then change the route on the 13th. So we're getting a bunch of different dates, but they aren't hitting the mark of what you guys had originally said. So those are the concerns that I know that she's gonna ask me about, that I have to provide answers for.
So the one, as far as the notification of the public, and I received the, feedback from Ms. Snow. That I have, that's all the feedback that I've received regarding the press release. One of the things that we had discussed, both in the board meetings and in our meetings with ODOT, was putting out one message with one date that covers both of those. So that's how we ended up with the 13th for both the paratransit dial ride and fixed route. And that keeps us legally in the right spot, which was a concern that Randy had as well.
Okay, because today is the 1st, so
Mhm.
we're less than 2 weeks away from the 13th, if that's when you guys are gonna make the changes. I thought you were trying to hit that 2-week target date. Is there a different date that you're trying to hit, or?
I can send it out today. I just did not have a go-ahead that was an acceptable message. There are a number of things.
Yeah,
ahead.
we were not, I mean, we were trying to provide assistance, but you guys ultimately are the ones that have to decide when you send that message out. You have to send it out with adequate time.
Yeah,
Um,
so that can go out today.
Okay.
Anything else?
Okay. Well, we're closed anyway. Everybody adjourned.
For the good of the order. Thank you, Jennifer.
Thanks.